At least they try, and that's certainly going to be the theme when we talk about OnePlus here and the OnePlus 10t, which was announced yesterday. $649, available September 1st for pre-order. I'm not unsure when they're shipping. I thought it was going to be the end of September, but then I saw some things shipping they're going to be arriving earlier than that, so hopefully that's the case. Interesting device. I think all things being equal, if you had taken the last 2 years or so of OnePlus's existence out of the equation, people would generally be excited about this device. It's going to have the Snapdragon Gen 8 Mark 1 Plus, or whatever that naming convention is there. But the Plus is important because a lot of people say that they finally figured the heating problems out. It's not going to overheat, and it's going to have good thermals, which means better power, but better power efficiency. You're going to get that battery life that we've been lacking since the Snapdragon 888 because it seems like Snapdragon just can't get their thermals together. So that's quite nice. You're looking at 8 gigs, 128 gigs on the base model, but they're having this pre-order bonus or something like that where you're going to get the 12 gig model, 256 gigs of storage for the same price, $649. Relatively decent build, high refresh rate display, 1080p, but 120 hertz, right? Everybody tells you got to have the 120, got to have the 120 hertz. It's running Oxygen OS 12, which I thought was an odd choice, being as they've basically told you it's no good, and they took it off of the N20, or they didn't even give it to you on the N20 because they said we're going to bring it back to Oxygen OS 11 and then go to 13 because they've scaled back the ColorOS integrations, but they've done it there. They previewed a lot of the ColorOS 13 stuff, which does look quite nice. I like some of the stuff, kind of the UI experience stuff that they've done there. Flat display, which is quite nice. Doesn't have the Hasselblad stuff, but you're really not buying a OnePlus, and you never would buy a OnePlus for the camera stuff anyway. Most times people just throw Gcam on there or just deal with the photos being a little substandard. It was odd for OnePlus to go in so hard with Hasselblad and say that they're going to have other color science, and eventually they'll work with us on lens technology. Well, I don't know what happened to that. Not on this device, but that's okay. This seems to be getting back to core OnePlus. We're going to give you the fastest chip we possibly can. We're going to give you RAM. We're going to give you storage. We're going to have a decent flat display and a relatively premium enough form factor. We're going to do it at a cheap price. $649 for all of that, everything considered, is pretty good. But OnePlus absolutely deserves to be criticized and to have a little skeptical when you hear about their releases. And they did that to themselves. And they did it by being indecisive and a little weird at the flagship level with their premium devices. And it's odd because as coherent and successful as they've been at the mid-tier and budget devices, the N20 is perhaps the best deal in mobile technology, period, ended. For $300, you get a fantastic, fantastic device. The N10 was successful, the 100 series and the 200 series was successful through T-Mobile. They have traction in the United States with their budget devices, and rightfully so, because they're well made, they're well done, and they seem to have a coherent strategy. But that doesn't apply to the flagship level. The flagship level strategy seems disjointed all over the place. They're where Google was a year or so ago, changing designs every year. Well, what tier do we really want to be? Do we want to be in the flagship tier? Do we want to be competing head-to-head with Samsung, spec for spec with Samsung? We'll just do it $100 cheaper. That wasn't cutting it. Are we doing mid-tier? Are we doing mid-range? Are we doing higher end? We're going to compete with the Pixel, but not with it. Google finally figured it out. So it's not impossible, right? The Pixel 6, now they're going to keep that design for the Pixel 7. Going to have some consistency. You're going to see where the line is going. OnePlus needs to do that. If this is the way that you want to go, stick with it. Stick with whatever you're doing with Oxygen OS. Personally, they should have left it as is. It was fine. Nothing was wrong with it. It was fast. It was snappy. It was relatively lightweight, but it gave you good customizability, which is something they've lost a little bit with Oxygen OS 12. Go back to that. Go back to giving us what you used to give us. The raw power, all that you want in that package that was relatively attractive at that price, and at $649, you didn't care about the camera. You really didn't, because it wasn't that big of a deal. You weren't buying it for the camera. Never were with OnePlus. So hopefully they can go back to something like that. And that device seems interesting. Might have it for the channel. Seems like a good idea. Seems like it'll be a decent comparison to the Pixel 7, the low-end one, and what's out now. It'll be a decent mid-year phone if you're upgrading. And if it's true that they're listening, and that's the thing, at least they're trying and they admit to certain issues, which is something a lot of manufacturers just don't do. They're saying, listen, we understand that we've lost our way. They did that with Oxygen OS 12. They understood that it wasn't that fantastic. The integrations weren't good. They were glitchy. They were slow. It was bloated. Stuff wasn't working well, so they pulled it back. Same thing here. They got up yesterday and said, you know what? We understand we've lost our way, and they've given us a relatively normal OnePlus T release. Interesting. If they can get back to that at that price range, perhaps they could start to claw their way back into the game. And everybody's talking about things that are wrong with it. I don't care about IP rating. Really don't. Not a big deal to me. Don't drop it in water. It's fine. We focus on things that really don't matter. How many times in how many devices that you've had, how many days that you've carried your phone outside of your establishment, your dwelling, have you had to worry about that? Have you had an issue with that? Never. For most of you, 99.9 of you have never dropped your phone in water. Don't worry about it. If it's $250 cheaper for a similar performance, you're going to worry about IP rating? I'm not. The charging thing gets a little out of control. The 120 watt. Look, how fast do you need to charge your phone? You charge it once a day anyway. If the battery lasts all day and it's more power efficient with the Plus Snapdragon Gen 8 Mark 1, then you don't have to worry about that. I think we can start striking a balance between battery health and the speed, the charging speeds. I think that's another one that's overblown as well. But for the most part, I think they cut the corners in the right spot, downgrade that camera, a little bit of build quality, 1080p, but give us all the power and performance and put it in that package at $649. Might be worth checking out. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Let me know what you think below. If you were a former T user, what you think. If you were a former 7 or 8 user, because I think that was pretty much the high watermark. You're the 6, 7, and 8. Right in that generation, they knew what they were doing. They were giving you that power and performance, that good balance. The camera was garbage, but who cared? Who cared? For most of us, that doesn't really matter. As long as it takes a representative enough photo, we don't have an issue with that. So if you were a OnePlus user that went away from them, let me know what would bring you back, if this is something that is at least attractive to you, or if you're still skeptical, which is perfectly valid, and they did it to themselves. Until next time, have that Steve-alicious day.